Recording in progress.
It's a Mugga Maimer. It's a Maimer from Tafshin Lamed Hey. Even though this Maimer is Mugga, and the previous Mamorim of Yud Beis Tammuz weren't Mugga, but it's a continuation. It's a part of a Hemshech of Mamorim that the Rebbe said on Yud Beis Tammuz. This is, we'll see how some of the topics connect. I don't know if we can get to it today or tomorrow, but I think maybe in today's year we'll touch a little bit on some of the topics that we already spoke about in the previous Maimer. And there's also a different Maimer from Tafshin Lamed Hey as well, from around the period of Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, which was not included in Dvar Malchus. It also speaks about similar topics that this Maimer will touch on. But in the beginning, we're first going to go into issues having to do with the parsha, then we're going to see the connections. Begorel, Yahlek, but by a lottery will the land be apportioned. Chaluk הארץ, the division of the Holy Land. Shekofshu Eretz Canaan, that they conquered the land of Canaan, also Eretz Yisrael, and they turned it into a land of Yisrael. So they transformed it. To such a degree, while the Eden were still in the wilderness. Before they even arrived in Eretz Yisrael, it says about the land of Eretz Yisrael, a land that the eyes of Hashem, your God, is upon it from the beginning of the year until the end of the year. So we see the power that Eretz Yisrael has, even before the Eden entered it and actually made it into Eretz Yisrael, it still had that amazing power that Hashem connected with it. So the Pasuk explains that the division of the Holy Land was divided by a lottery. And this is there's an additional part, an aspect of it, that was by Hashem's mouth. Rashi explains, Beruach HaKodesh. So as we'll explain soon, that's something distinct. Lottery was one thing, and the Ruach HaKodesh pronounced and proclaimed that this part belongs to this Shevet. Another idea was that the division of the land, that to the greater number of the Shevet, you will, or to the greater Shvatim, to the larger Shvatim, you will give a greater amount of land, and to the smaller Shvatim, you will give a lesser amount of the land. That division is completely something that's logical, it's rational, it makes sense that when you divide the land according to the Shvatim, that the Shvatim that are more populous will get more, the Shvatim that are less populous will get less. The simple explanation, the pasuk, where it says that to the many you shall increase, is like Rashi explains. Rashi's explanation of the Torah is the simple meaning of the text. Like we said before, a tribe, a shevet that was more populous, they gave a greater portion. There weren't even parts. It wasn't like a pie that you cut evenly, but rather it was completely according to the amount of people, members of a shevet. The chaluk is zu yalpi seichel. This division was according to seichel. So now the Rebbe in the brackets is going to mention an interesting thing. Others take Rashi to task. It doesn't fit in with Mamor Chazal, doesn't fit in with other things, and they explain la rav tarbes nachlosoi, lama tamitus nachlosoi in a different manner. So the Ramban, for example, argues strongly against Rashi, and in other words, that it wasn't a logical division like the Rebbe just now established. And not only that, but in Rashi itself, because of the Ramban's questions on Rashi, so there are those that interpret Rashi differently than what we just now said, that it means simply a shevet that has more people will get more, and a shevet that has less people will get a lesser portion of land. So there's those that, because of the Ramban's questions on Rashi, that they actually learn Pshat differently in what Rashi says. And the Rebbe is going to point out, be that as it may, still in all, first of all, the most simple sense of the text is that it's a logical thing, meaning more, you bigger, you get more. Or, as we're soon going to explain, even if we want to learn a Rashi differently, it still has to do with Seichel, as he's soon going to explain. So let's see the brackets. But again, it's really parenthetical to the main point. The main point that the Rebbe is trying to bring out over here is that there's the logical component of the division of Eretz Yisrael, and that has to do with the Larav Tarbe. So let's see in the brackets, end of line 15. Gam the Ramban Pol Gazel, though the Ramban disputes what Rashi says. That it wasn't a logical division. It doesn't mean that a bigger tribe got more land. Similarly, there are other explanations in what Rashi meant, not as we explained before, that it means simply that the bigger Shevet got more land. So still in all Ramban, Mefarish Rashi, Kavans Rashi Pshuta. So first of all, the Ramban understands that at least his understanding of Rashi is in the simple sense. That was a logical division. So therefore, there is, according to Rashi, Pshuta Shel Mikra, it was a logical division. And now he goes on, he says, and even Vafil La Ramban, even if we follow the Ramban's opinion. The Ramban is also from the Pashtone HaMikra. He might not be as Pshuta Shel Mikra as Rashi, but he's still called relatively the meaning of the text. And also, according to those that explain Rashi, according to the view of the Ramban, which means that even the simple meaning of the text, even Pshuta Shel Mikra, where Rashi says, is that it wasn't a logical division. So the Rebbe says, still in all, it has to do with logic. From the very factual, from the very fact that those explanations need to negate and tell you, it wasn't logical, it wasn't intellectual, it didn't make sense really. Mochach, we're forced to say, top of page Zayin, that there's for this division an association with intellect. So even according to those that learn Larav Tarbe, doesn't mean literally they are negating intellect. When you negate something, that means there is some type of association that you're negating it from. Aval Ikar Meduber Kan, the main thing that's spoken about over here, Upashtus HaKosov, is the simple meaning in the Pasuk. Upashtus HaPirish Rashi Vasefri, in the simple meaning of Rashi and the Sifri, that the division was according to the number of people. So it's a division according to intellect. So again, this is all parenthetical. Mainly the Rebbe was trying to bring out that there's a division according to intellect of Eretz Yisrael. Nimtza comes out, in the division of Eretz Yisrael, there were three aspects. Al Pi HaGorel, based on a lottery. Al Pi Ruach HaKodesh, based on Ruach HaKodesh. Al Pi Seichel HaMuvim Gam B'Nefesh HaSichlis, and according to an intellect that's even understood in the intellectual soul. You don't have to be a Nefesh HaLakis to be able to understand the idea that if you have a greater part of the land, would go to a greater number of people. Ois base. This idea of dividing the land based on a lottery, the Tzemach Tzedek explains, based on a Maimer of the Alter Rebbe, Bamesha Amar Rabbi Yochanan bar Zakkai connects it with something seemingly totally different. What Rabbi Yochanan bar Zakkai said, it says that on his deathbed, he said, Eini yedea be'eze derech malichin moised. Rabbi Yochanan bar Zakkai said, I'm in doubt. I don't know what path they will lead me, meaning to Gan Eden or Chas v'Sholom, somewhere else. The L'chura all ask this question. Seemingly, it's a wonder. It says Rabbi Yochanan bar Zakkai did not even step 4 cubits without learning Torah and without wearing tefillin. And 80 years he spent learning and teaching Torah. So therefore, how come, what room is there even for a doubt, that he can even have any type of doubt in his mind, that what way they're leading him? As we know, humility doesn't have to do with lying to yourself or lying to others. Just like Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't deny that he spoke to Hashem face to face. He couldn't deny that he was in Har Sinai 40 days without eating and without drinking. He couldn't deny that he took the Yidden out of Mitzrayim. Same thing in Rabbi Yochanan bar Zakkai couldn't deny the fact that he did all of these things. So how can he have any doubt about what path they were going to lead him down to? The vibe is like what just Admor Hazakin, the Alter Rebbe explains, all of these things, that he was learning Torah, teaching Torah, and that he was wearing tefillin the whole time, this is all has to do with the Giluyim, with his manifestations, his machshava dibra. So what is he doing with his nefesh? But what's going on with the essence of his soul itself? From the perspective of the level of the nefesh as beyond reason, beyond rational thought. And therefore, Rabbi Yochanan bar Zakkai said, I don't know. Even though he was involved in Torah study, the fact that he was involved in Torah was a matter that's connected with reasoning and understanding. There's no proof for this for a level that's beyond reason and knowledge. Also, this level, so the level that's beyond reason, beyond knowledge, and that's totally beyond. So therefore, the avodah of Tam V'das, he's teaching Torah, he's wearing tefillin, he's learning Torah the whole time, has no impact and has no association with the level that's totally beyond Tam V'das. But on the other hand, it also impacts the direction his nefesh is going to take after 120. Also this level, since there's idea of reward and punishment, also on this level, also on the level of the essence, so because Rabbi Yochanan bar Zakkai himself said, I don't know which way I'm being led. So that means if the only determining factor of if a person is going to go to Gan Eden or to a different place is the levels of Tam V'das, did he learn Torah, did he not learn Torah, did he teach Torah, did he wear tefillin, did he not wear tefillin? So then, and we don't care about L'mayla Tam V'das, we don't care about the Etzma Nefesh, so why was Rabbi Yochanan bar Zakkai worried on his deathbed? So obviously, he was worried because he might end up in the wrong place, even because of something that's L'mayla Tam V'das. So if so the Rebbe comes to an amazing conclusion from this. From this, it's obvious. There is the possibility, v'yicholus and capability, v'reshus and permission and the control. L'chol adam nesuna, every person is given gam b'negel l'bchina zusha b'nefesh, also concerning this level of the nefesh, the level of L'mayla Tam V'das. This means to say, yes, avoid it because there's such a avoid shapiel has got betzma nefesh that affects top of page Zayin, also the essence of the soul. In other words, we can do something about it. We can determine in our avoida we can do things that will affect the essence of the soul. And through that it should be appropriate. in this level of the soul. And also the avoida that's connected with the soul, is called a lottery. So there's two things. A lottery means something that's beyond seichel. Now, there is the lottery area of the nefesh, meaning the levels beyond tam v'das in the person's nefesh. Then there's the level of the avoida associated with l'mayla matam v'das. Both of those are called goydel. According to this, Tzemach Tzedek explains the division of Eretz Yisrael that's based upon the idea of the goydel. So he says in Ois Gimel, line 5, then an explanation of the association of these three things. HaGoyrol b'nefesh, the level of goyrol, a lottery in the soul, which is the level of the nefesh that's beyond reason. Uba'avodas Adam, the level of the goyrol that's in the service of a person to Hashem. And also b'chalukas ha'aretz, and the level of goyrol, lottery in the division of the land. Hinei kol advarim sheba'olam yeshem b'Yisrael. All matters in the world are to be found within a yid. Ubefrat, and how much more so, where we're talking about a level in the world like Eretz Yisrael. Ubefrat ha'cheluk sheba'olam ha'shayach befrat l'Yisrael, especially the part in the world that has a specific connection with the yid. Chazal say, when Hashem created the world, He divided the lands and countries. And Hashem chose for Himself Eretz Yisrael. And amongst the nations, He chose for His own lot, for His own portion, He chose the Yidden as His nation. And then He said, I chose these two things, let's make a shidduch between them. Yavoyu Yisrael Shabal Chalki, let the Jewish people that came to be my portion, and they should inherit the land that also came to my portion. Therefore Hashem gave the entire land of Canaan to Avram Avinu. Not just Avram Avinu, obviously, but but to him and to his children after him as an everlasting inheritance. Move on. So therefore, since there's such a deep and inherent connection between Yidden and Eretz Yisrael, so even on top of the fact that everything found in the world in general is to be found in Yidden, how much more so in that part of the world that has a special connection with Yidden. Move on line 14, from this is understood. The matters that are to be found in Eretz Yisrael correspond to the matters that are in the Yid. So too to the other side. The matters that are amongst the Yidden correspond to those things that are in Eretz Yisrael. So it's a two-way street. It's not just that the Yidden have in themselves things of Eretz Yisrael, but Yidden correspond to Eretz Yisrael. Since concerning the Jewish to the land of Yisrael, in the conquest of that land of Canaan, to make it into a holy, to make it into the Eretz of the Yidden. It had in it all three things of a lottery, and the Ruach HaKodesh and intellect, like we said before, that's the idea, that to the many you will increase a greater part of Eretz Yisrael, and to the few you will make a lesser part of Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, since there's these three things in Eretz Yisrael, it's understood that these three things are to be found in the Yidden themselves. What's it mean to found in the Yidden themselves? Beruchnis Yisrael, in the spiritual part of the Yidden. The Gamzeh, the Rav Ma'at, even this idea of the many and the few, since it's to be found in the division of Eretz Yisrael concerning the body, which is ancillary, meaning how many bodies there are of a shevet determines how big the section they will get in Eretz Yisrael. So how much more so? That this idea of the many and the few, however the Rebbe will explain that, concerning the neshama, the idea of many and few, how much more so it's to be found in the spiritual aspect, since the neshama is primary. Since the goal of the Yidden is, like the Chazal say, I was created to serve my Maker, how they move, and it's understood. All the three matters that we mentioned before, is also to be found in the idea of to serve my Maker in the service of Hashem. Ois Dalet, top of Ois Ches. So now, right away in the beginning of Ois Dalet, we're going to pick up from some of the topics that we spoke about in the previous mimer, and there are some parts of it might not be familiar, but was also, I believe, in the other mimer of this series that the Rebbe spoke in that Yud Beis Tammuz era. The idea behind this is in his boy, it was explained in the Mamorim of the days of redemption of the 12th and 13th of Tammuz, these present days. In other words, this mimer was said on Shabbos, Parshas Pinchas, Tezayin Tammuz, within a few days. So, they're coming in continuation of the days of the Geula. We spoke about in those Mamorim that by Yidden there are three levels. The way they are a wellspring of the gardens, in other words, they are being mashpia. They are irrigating the way they're in Gan Eden. Like they are also the well of the living water, in other words, by going down below, being covered over by the earth and then springing forth. And then the final stage is how they come through the fact that we say that the well will rise and you will respond to it. Like we explained, they will come to the fact that it pours out from the vonin. Mazel. Noizlim is from the word mazel. Mazel in Shinyone L'mayla B'Chochma Bina. Mazel is the idea it's beyond Chochma Bina, because Levonin is Lev Nun, Lamed Beis and Sivus HaChochma, Nun Shari Bina. But Noizlim Milovonin, Noizlim means a mazel, it's higher than it. And that, Hu Inyan HaGoydel, it's the same idea. What did we say? A lottery is super irrational. It's higher than Tam V'das. The same thing, you have Tam V'das, which is Chochma Bina. That's the logical, that's the rational. And then there's the V'noizlim Milovonin, that's the super rational, that's the Goydel, that's the lottery, Kimavur Bekam Mekoimis, like it's explained in many places. It's explained concerning these three things, which I already started summing up. That the spring of the gardens is referring to the neshamas the way they're above before they descended below. The Oz, and when the neshamas are above before descending below, they are called the daughters of Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim moira al shleimus hayira. Yerushalayim indicates the perfect and complete state of awe of Hashem. Like it's brought down Tosfos, Yerushalayim nikra al shem yira v'al shem sholim. It says Avraham Avinu called it Yira, Bahar Hashem Yira. This is Yira. And there's Malki Melech Sholem, Shem called it Sholem, and therefore Yerushalayim is a combination of both. In Tanakh, there's a lashon that says Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is called Yerushalayim without a yud before the last mem, indicating that the first part is Yeru, indicating Yira, and the last part is Sholim, from the word Sholim. Essentially, the point is, we're talking about here, Yira Sholim, Shleimus HaYira. So, the Neshamas above are called B'nais Yerushalayim. V'lachein, HaNeshamas, K'moishem l'mayla nikrois b'shem b'nois Yerushalayim, the neshamas, the way they are above, are called the daughters of Yerushalayim, v'sha'ozhem b'shleimus hayira, because then they're in the utmost state of awe and bittul to Hashem. But after that, there's a be'er mayim chayim, there's the well of the living waters. Actually, I think we'll stop over here by the be'er mayim chayim, line 18.